Hello, this is Jer. About to start a brand new game of Oxygen Not Included, and I'm going to do something very different this time. I'm going to go to the Spaced Out DLC, default asteroid. That's nothing new. The new bit here is I'm going to be playing this from the perspective of the dupes. What would I do different if I was on this rock? Would probably focus on quality of life much earlier on. The other thing is I'm just going to be playing with 4 dupes, allowing me to focus on the lives of these particular dupes. So it's going to make it more difficult to advance and build a quality of life with a smaller amount. Not only that, we're going to the game settings, and just to really drive home the fact that I've got to focus on quality of life, they're far more susceptible to radiation, disease, more difficult to build morale, and they get stressed out much easier. Let's give this a go. So the story is, 4 dupes are traveling in a cave, and they go to a new area that no one's ever been to before. And they discover this glowing door, and they decide this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity they have to take. They decide they're gonna jump in. 3 of them jump in right away. The 4th friend delays, but follows right after. These are the 3 friends that jumped in first. There's Dash, the most daring of them. They're really good at problem solving, they love to travel, and lift weights in their spare time. They're very handy around the house, but they would never hurt a fly. When Dash gets stressed out though, they vomit everywheres. But when they're really happy, they like to celebrate with balloons. Next is Charm. Charm loves to get her hands dirty and builds things. In her spare time, experiments in the kitchen. If someone is sick, Charm's the first one by their side, but neglects their own health a little bit. But if Charm's stressed out, watch out. She gets destructive. On the plus side, though, if she's super happy, she becomes very productive. Then there's Flex. Flex is really good with machinery, and they're super fit. They're both strong and fast. If something's going around, Flex is usually one of the last ones to catch it. But if someone else is sick, they tend not to care. If Flex gets stressed out, they tend to eat everything in sight. But when they're happy, they run in joy. I'm calling the colony Dupe Rock to remind myself it's all about the dupes' perspective of this. Let's embark on this mission. The 3 friends exit the door, and the door disappears behind them. All that's left is a light shining on top of their heads. They look around and notice one of their friends is missing. Also, they're in a tiny little room with no exits. We have just made a huge mistake. They also notice there's a little bit of oxygen in the air from this oxylight that's leaking on the ceiling. And there's a ration box with a few nutrient bars. What are we gonna do? They take a moment to collect their thoughts, and then they realize there's blasters on the ground. They each pick one up and find there's a button called dig. They point it at the wall. Could this actually work? Can we actually dig a path out of here? And it works. Sandstone falls from the ground. That opens up a little bit of oxylight so more oxygen can get in. This gives them a sense of new hope. We're gonna find our friend and get back home. Keep digging. Keep digging. This is gonna work. They notice there's some buried objects in the wall. As they dig that out, items will drop out, such as this critter. They decide to call it a hatch. It consumes some of the sandstone that they dug out right in front of them. But then we have a problem. An opening appears with some water beneath. There's no way they're going to be able to jump across. That's when they realize there's another object they can pick up. It's called a builder. One of the things they can build with it is the set of tiles. They could build a bridge essentially with them to get across. They take a moment to think and then realize there's another thing they can do. There's a pitcher pump. If they want to survive, getting access to water might be essential. So they put that right above with water. This can't actually work. We're not going to be able to actually build something with this builder tool, can we? There's some disbelief. The other guys go over and dig a path the other direction to see if they can get out that way. Dash gives it a try though. Is this builder actually going to create something right in front of me? Oh my goodness, it does. We have a pitcher pump. Let's try digging a path I can get across now. And I'll even build a tile to get across here. They continue on digging in both directions to see if they can get back home. As Dash and Charm get to one end, they find new item in the walls. It's called algae. They try digging that out. Maybe that's going to be useful somehow. After digging through algae, they find a shiny material in the wall. It's metal ore. As that falls to the ground, they realize the builder lights up with new options. For instance, they now can build a door and oxygen systems. Oh, that's actually really good because oxygen is getting a little bit thin in here. They look at the two different options they could build. One is an oxygen diffuser, which takes algae. The other is sublimation station, which takes polluted dirt. Well, they have algae, so why don't we build an oxygen diffuser here at high priority? Charm throws some of the metal ore at it, and tries her hand at the builder and points at it and see if it's going to create something similar to the pitcher pump. After a little bit of time, it worked. I created something just by pointing at it. An oxygen diffuser, except for the fact that it says no power wire connected. They look down at the builder and realize they can create wires, so they're going to give that a try. Charm picks up more metal ore and throws it down where the wire needs to be. Doesn't take too long to create the wire, but that makes the oxygen diffuser show another error. This time it says no power. I guess that makes sense. They look at the builder under power, and they see this thing called a manual generator. Converts manual labor into electrical power. Manual labor? They build that next to it and then realize, uh-oh, we're not going to be able to run on this all night. But, thankfully, they see under power there's a battery option. They could charge the battery and produce oxygen while they're sleeping. Sleeping? We're going to be sleeping here? It's not going to be comfortable sleeping on the ground. So they look at the builder and really hope that there's something that we can sleep on. They see a cot. Oh my goodness, thankfully. Let's try building 3 of them, one for each of us right here. Dash makes the first cot. Has a pillow and a blanket. That's much better than sleeping on the ground. Flex and Charm are working on the manual generator and the battery. Another cot. Good. 2 of them are able to sleep. We've got a battery available. And then a manual generator. Flex gets on the manual generator. That gives power to the oxygen diffuser. It's not running because it doesn't have algae. So Dash puts some in. And we're producing our own oxygen. This is really good. Flex keeps running until the battery's fully charged. Well, now that we've got these cots, just thought of one other issue. What happens when one of us has to go to the washroom? They look down at the builder and hope there's an option. Let's build an outhouse, but not have it anywhere where we're sleeping. Let's put it as far away as possible. We'll get one for each of us. The far end over here. So the builder does its trick again. We've got an outhouse, except for the fact that we need to add dirt in order for someone to actually take a dump in there. Fortunately, there's dirt around. As that falls to the ground, they put it in, and they realize they're going to get 15 dumps in each of these. Okay, well, we got a place to use the washroom. Our hands are going to be dirty afterwards. Why don't we make some wash basins? One final thought is on their mind. When they're sleeping, is that little critter going to wake up and crawl around them when they're either doing that or using the washroom? How about we build doors in front of this as well as our sleeping place just to make sure that doesn't happen? That'd be kind of gross. Dash points the builder at where they want the door to be, and it's built. Ah, good. That little critter's not going to crawl around when we're in this room. They also add water to the wash basin so they can actually wash their hands at the end of the day. Flex is putting an additional door just to make sure the critter cannot jump across. After all of that, we better take a break. They go towards the outhouses so they can relieve themselves. They use the wash basin to make sure they wash their hands because they notice they get covered in food poisoning. We don't want that to go into our sleeping area because we might get sick. They pick up some of the granola bars they found in the storage bin, consume that, sit in the well-lit area, talk about their day and adventure, and then finally settle onto a cot to sleep at the end of the day. So that is the first cycle with these dupes. So 3 things to say. First thing, if this isn't your thing, please let me know. I'm not going to be offended. I'm just trying something different. Quite curious to see how this is going to go. Next, I'd like to compare what I've done in this cycle versus what I typically do in my playthroughs at the end of cycle 1. Let's start with what's the same. There's a barracks and a latrine. I always get a barracks and latrine at the end of the first cycle. After that, pretty much everything else is different. First of all, I always built up and down my playthroughs. I built sideways, and the reason for that is I just thought the dupes, or myself, would naturally go sideways when we start to explore. Also, I don't typically worry about building a pitcher pump, oxygen diffuser, power on the first cycle. I save that usually for the second cycle. But from my perspective, or the dupe's perspective, they're going to want to produce oxygen and have access to water. That's kind of essential to life. I would not want to rely on the fact that oxylight is there. One final thing is I changed the schedule a little bit and added 1 extra hour of the day. That probably makes sense. If I'm trapped somewhere, I'm probably not going to mind going until I'm exhausted to see what I can do. The third thing I want to say is, did I learn anything new in this method? And the answer is yes, actually. So I'm going to go load the first save that the game gives you. So this is Dupe Rock, the original. So this is the first cycle again, and this is the save the game gives me. But I only have New Hope on 2 of the dupes. The last one here, Flex, doesn't have New Hope. So when I discovered this, what I did, I started my playthrough and I actually did a load after a couple seconds when I know all 3 dupes have New Hope, and I'll just try loading that right now. So this is my save I created a couple seconds after the game, and all 3 dupes have New Hope this time. A random little trivia thing, I just thought I'd leave you with that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I know this has been different. Kind of curious to see where we're going to go from here. Thanks anyone for liking, subscribing, leave some comments if you got some feedback, and hopefully I will see you in another video. Until then.